Hello and welcome to our office hours presentation today. This is Paul Hoyt, your host. Our office hours presentation is a relaxed informal mentoring program that we do every Monday at noon Pacific time. All these recordings, slides, and exercises are archived in the members area of our website, and all the recordings are available, at least for now, on my YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/user/Paul Hoyt. The reasons we do these is because we know that being a successful business owner can be a great experience, but we also know that it can be very tough. You need education, training, tools, and team to be successful, and we want you to get to know us, because when you get to know us, you'll realize that first and most importantly, we really do care about you. We want you to have success in every area of your life, whatever that means to you. We want you to find the greatness, the happiness, and the divinity within yourself, and then remember it, embrace it, and live it every single day as we do. Our passion is to increase the survival rate, accelerate the growth rate, and reduce the struggle rate of businesses in America. And our vision is to help millions of CEOs and entrepreneurs accelerate their business growth while enjoying greater harmony and balance in their lives. If you find these office hours presentations to be beneficial and valuable to you, please pass the word to your friends and colleagues. Every one of you knows some entrepreneur out there that could gain benefit from these office hours presentations, and they are absolutely free. Our office hours agenda is an in-depth discussion of a business success principle. Then we offer some closing remarks, special offers, and an invitation for next week's session, and then we go into Q&A and coaching. So as you're listening to the office hours presentation today, make a note of any questions that you have or comments that you would like to offer. At the end of the presentation, we'll open up the lines and we'll talk about the things that you want to talk about and answer the questions that you have. We invite you to join us in the Awakened CEO communities on both LinkedIn and Facebook, where on both of those we publish a business success principle of the day 4 days a week, and we do an energy of the day posting every day on Facebook. Every morning when I get up, I try to say something insightful, motivational, inspirational to people just by picking a word, not quite at random, but a word that's on my list of some of my very favorite words. Today's topic is how to be great at operations and administration. As always, we relate the subject matter of the day to one or more of the key performance areas, and this one's all about operations. This is about excellence in operations. With the Awakened CEO system, we talk to people about being successful on 3 different levels of performance, because it is a balanced and comprehensive approach to business growth. And those 3 different levels are mindset, methods, and momentum. And we're going to, throughout the conversation today, we'll be focusing on all 3 of those areas, because being great at everything means shifting your mindset somewhat. It means putting good new methods into place and establishing momentum. Our agenda for today is we're going to talk about some quick reminders about how to transform yourself and your company. We'll talk about what is operations and administration and the value of excellence in operations and administration. We'll talk about the 6 operations success principles and sum it all up with the bottom line. First, a quick reminder about how we change. How we change happens on 3 levels. First, it's knowing what to do, which is education. Then it's knowing how to do it, which is training. And then it's actually doing the work, which oftentimes requires coaching. When we talk about doing the work, we talk about it at the 3 different levels of performance. First of all, it's your mindset. It oftentimes takes a shift in your beliefs and your perspective, in your attitude, in your emotional state in order to actually do the work. Secondly, it takes methods or a plan. That's your plans, your processes, and your procedures. And third, it takes getting into action and then turning that action into velocity, turning that velocity into momentum, which means repetitive action day after day after day so that it becomes a habit and so that you establish momentum in your business. In today's subject, we're going to talk about operations and administration. So what is that? What is operations and administration to me? To me, it's the engine room of your business. It is the back office of your business, your manufacturing, kitting, assembly, and distribution operations, and it is competencies as well with regards to getting the job done. I consider the back office of your business to be human resources, information systems and telecommunications, your legal services, your administrative services, and your facilities. The bottom line is, if you don't have at least competency in every one of these areas of your business, that encompass the back office of your business, it is going to reach out and bite you at some point in time. For many of you, you also have manufacturing, kitting, assembly, and distribution operations. That includes sourcing, production control, inventory management, manufacturing, and distribution operations. And I would suggest even if you have a services-oriented business, you have each one of these elements of manufacturing, kitting, assembly, and distribution in your business. Sourcing it means finding partners that you can rely upon to help you develop your products and services, such as, for example, designing and implementing your product funnel. Even if you're a services business, you need to source that. Production control is all about scheduling and understanding, what your time is available during the day, even with a services operation. Inventory management usually doesn't happen with regards to services business that much, but if you think about it, the resources that you have at your disposal, including your time and the time of your affiliates and people who help you deliver those services, is in fact your inventory. And in manufacturing, that's where we create the products and services. For some of you, that may mean creating a binder, creating sorts of CDs, creating other exercises and other things that go into the delivery of your services. And distribution is how we actually deliver that. Do we deliver it online? Do we deliver it via webinars and seminars, or we deliver it face-to-face? So even if you have a services business, I think some of these elements of manufacturing business really pay a dividend there. And I have a tendency, by the way, to think in terms of manufacturing and distribution, because at least 20 of my 50 years of business experience has been in manufacturing. And I have an in-depth understanding of what it takes to be successful in the production environments in manufacturing areas. The third great area about operations and administration is a 6 success principle, which is focusing on getting the job done. We'll talk about this at length later with project management, operations management, opportunity management, and change management. But what does it mean to be really great? And what is the value of being great in operations and administration? Well, first, if you are great at operations and administration, your employees and your contractors know exactly what's expected of them, and almost all of them are doing a great job. Your computers and your telecommunication systems are up to date and reliable. People are working away with great eagerness and enthusiasms because their systems are working very well. You know that every contract and every agreement is a good one because they've all been reviewed by great attorneys, and you have a great support team. You and your high-paid staff are not spending your time doing things that are most cost-effectively done by other people. If you are great at operations and administration, your manufacturing operations are delivering quality products on time and within expected costs, and you are proud of your offices, your warehouses, and your manufacturing facilities. Everything is up to date, clean, and efficiently laid out, and you love to invite people over because you're so proud of what you do. If you have excellence in operations and administration, you get the job done. The impact, however, if you are not excellent at operations administration, if you're really not good at that at all, then you might find yourself wondering what your employees are doing, and they're wondering what they're doing too. Your computer systems keep crashing, and you hope your critical data is backed up. You hope that nothing goes wrong with any of your agreements because even the largest of them have never been reviewed by an attorney, and you feel exposed because you are exposed. And you spend a lot of time making copies, going to the post office, cleaning the toilets, making coffee, etc., because you don't have enough support. The impact of poor operations administration also means that you don't know what the quality is of the things that are going out the door from your manufacturing company, or when you're actually going to receive the merchandise that you've ordered. And all of your important meetings are at a Starbucks or at a hotel because you never invite people over to your place because, well, it's embarrassing. So we don't want that to happen to you. We want instead for you to follow the 6 principles of great operations and administration, and here they are. Number 1 is having great agreements. Number 2 is getting a great administrative and operations support team. Number 3, managing your staff extremely well. Number 4, using technology efficiently. Number 5, having reliable and efficient delivery systems. And number 6, being great at the 4 operational competencies that we're going to talk about at the end. First of all, let's talk about having great agreements. Bottom line is good agreements make for good business, and that includes your friends. So I'm a big fan of having written agreements signed and faxed and exchanged via scanning or faxed with each other to make darn sure, as best you possibly can, that you understand what the terms and conditions are of the agreement, who's going to do what fees are going to be exchanged, the time frame that's required, what to do in case of any disagreements with regards to that, and the overall intent and vision of the business. I use a 10-step process that was given to me by a really good friend, Stuart Levine, in his book, The Book of Agreements, that really focuses on having great agreements. One of the most important things is that this encompasses your friends as well. I've talked to many people who thought that they had an agreement with their friend, or even worse, thought that they didn't have to have an agreement because they were such good friends, only to find out that the differences between their perspectives were so much that the friendship, not only did the business arrangement fall through, but the friendship actually fell through over time because they had such disagreements. And we don't want to see that happen to you. I remember vividly a friend of mine that had worked with another friend for 2 years, believing that that other friend was going to give them a portion of the business. But the friend never did it. The other person was never willing to sign that paperwork that granted some ownership position in the business to party number 2, and as a consequence, the business agreement fell apart and the friendship fell apart. So I think instead that when you have a friend that you're doing business with, to really flip that a little bit and say, it's really, really important for us to have a great and very clear agreement with each other because we value the friendship so much, because this relationship is so important to us. Let's put a little extra time and attention in on making sure that we're in agreement, that we understand each other. I think that's a very, very good rule of thumb. I think you should also have every significant agreement reviewed by an attorney, and a little tip, work out the business terms first. Now, by the way, you get to decide what is a significant agreement. Is that an agreement for something over $1,000 or $10,000 or $100,000 or over $100? You get to decide what a significant agreement is, and then make sure that you have an attorney review those contracts. It could be a single contract for $10,000, or it could be a contract for $100 that you're going to use 1,000 times. You get to decide what level of contracts you have reviewed with an attorney, and make sure, by the way, when you're doing that you're hiring your specialists. Because there are a lot of different specialties when it comes to agreements and when it comes to law. There's IP attorneys, corporate law attorneys, securities attorneys, employment law attorneys, and hopefully you don't have to use one, but there are litigation support specialists as well when it comes to attorneys. So the first great success principle in the area of operations administration, and I think the most important one, is to make sure that you have great agreements in place. Because no matter what kind of a job that you do, if you don't have a great agreement in place, a written agreement in place, you are exposed, and you're leaving your entire company exposed, your investors exposed, your family exposed, because you tried to save a few $100 by not going to an attorney to get an agreement reviewed. So don't do that. Make sure that you have great agreements, signed agreements in place at your company. The second great administrative and operations success principle is to have a great support team. And that means delegating the low-value activities so that you can focus your time on the high-value activities. High-value activities typically include sales, strategic planning, forming great alliances and partnerships, managing your staff, building quality referral relationships, and anything that's too expensive to outsource. If it's too expensive to outsource, then you need to focus your time and attention on it as best you possibly can, hiring coaches and advisors, as your resources allow, to make sure that you're getting the job done. But what you don't really want to spend your time on is making copies, cleaning the toilets, making the coffee, unless if you're the only person at the company, you get a chance to do all that stuff. But when you start expanding your staff, it's really important to delegate those low-value tasks so that you can focus your time on the high-value activities. And it's important for you to have a support team in a lot of different areas of your business: administrative support, sales support, contract support, marketing support, and IT support. And typically, by the way, the first two that people get are administrative support and marketing support, because it's very difficult to develop competency in marketing and administrative support. Having a gopher can really free your time up for some of the more high value activities. Make sure that when you get and as you build your team out, that you have a company that includes both leaders and followers. Because if you have all kinds of high dollar people at your company, you'll find yourself, wasting time doing the low dollar tasks. So focus on the high value activities. We definitely want to have a versatile team to start off with, but you definitely want to hire people that you're paying $10 an hour to, $12 an hour to, $15 an hour to, in order to take that workload off of your plate so that you can focus on the high dollar activities. Another couple of good points here is to have a reasonable span of control. Span of control means the number of people that are reporting directly to you. A long time ago, we used to say that in larger companies, the span of control was 8 to 10. I've seen some companies have a span of control that's 16 or 20, and some companies as low as 3 or 4. Typically, if it's the average span of control is 3 or 4, usually somebody comes along and eliminates layers of management at some point in time and raises it back up to 8 or 10. But have a reasonable span of control. As you build your company, if you find that you have 8 or 10 people reporting to you directly, what you'll also find is that you're spending a lot of time on management and less time on doing the high value activities. So I think it's important for the CEOs and the higher level people to only have a span of control that's 4 to 6 people reporting to them directly, so that they can focus a lot of their time and energy on those high value activities. At very small companies, it's important for you to hire versatile employees to start off with, because you have so many hats to wear. So if it's just you and one other person, it's a pretty good idea for both of you to be very versatile, and up to like employee 3 or 4. But after that, at the end, at larger companies, you want to make sure that you hire specialists instead of generalists. Again, when you're just starting your company, it's important for you to be a generalist, and important for you to hire people who can wear a lot of different hats and who are generalists themselves. But at larger companies, we only want to hire specialists. Which brings us to our third key performance, or 3 success principle in this key performance area, and that is managing your staff extremely well. That means having good interviewing and hiring practices, having great agreements with your employees and contractors, having really good compensation packages that are well defined and well laid out, having good performance review systems, and having great onboarding, training, and orientation systems. I covered all of these things in depth in Office Hours 97, where we talked about getting massive support. And I invite you to go back and review that Office Hours presentation if you're in the hiring mode. Just as a reminder, we talked in that episode about the six different step-by-step success program that we have that requires you to put out a job description so that you know exactly what job needs to be done, to conduct interviews, typically by multiple people at multiple times of the day is the best practice, to have tests and checks to make sure that you're validating someone's claim of competency, and reference checks and due diligence and background checks to make sure the person is who they say they are and they have the integrity that you hope that they have, to put in great onboarding and training systems at your company to make sure that somebody comes into your company with the best foot forward, to do probationary hiring for the first 90 days or so to make sure that they're going to work out and be a long-term member of the team, and then ongoing management, which is performance reviews and making sure you're telling them what they need to hear to do a great job for you tomorrow, step by step along the way. The next success principle in the area of operations administration is to use technology effectively. And that means keeping up with your customers, your competitors, and your suppliers in terms of technology. And today that means having a technology refresh every 2 to 4 years. That means getting a new smartphone every 2 to 4 years, replacing your laptops and your desktops, upgrading your operating systems, updating your versions of your software packages, periodically, just to make sure that you are keeping up. And these days that also means thinking mobile. There was a lot of discussion a couple of years ago about utilizing HTML5, which was the capability of your online systems to automatically resize themselves on mobile platforms, on tablets, and whatever size of monitor that your viewer was actually using. Today, it's kind of a generally acceptable principle. You just don't put up a website unless it's going to work on a smartphone, on a tablet, because the world is going mobile. More and more people don't even have a desktop computer anymore. They're just computing via their tablet or computing via their Surface Pro, for example, and everything is stored in the cloud. So think mobile, think cloud when it comes to using technology effectively. The next of the 6 operations and administration success principles is about having reliable and efficient delivery systems. That means focusing on the supply chain, whether it's your initial suppliers of raw materials, your preparation team, your delivery team, your account management team, and your support team. It's really important that you have excellence at every step along the way, because you can't build quality products out of substandard materials, and you'll never deliver a quality product if any step along the way produces an inferior result. So you have to use high quality products. You have to prepare your products and services with high quality. You have to have a great delivery team that's actually going to deliver the products and services. You have to have a great account management team that's going to manage the relationship with your customers, and good support teams as well. Excellence at every step is really, really important. The next and the last of the 6 success principles in operations and administration is on the 4 operations competencies, which is all about getting the job done by having excellence in project management, operations management, opportunity management, and change management. And this is so important that I want to take a look at each one of these 4 things separately over the course of the next few minutes. Project management are a series of tasks, a collection of tasks that are done one time typically, and one time only, and there's typically a beginning and an end to a project. They're typically done with temporary teams, and at larger companies, their interdepartmental or cross-functional teams is kind of the norm. Generally speaking, projects have not been done before, and they're not going to be done again, so you really have to focus on quality, on timelines, and on budgets. And frankly, with most projects, especially if they're unique projects and creative projects that you've never done before, you'll find it very difficult to estimate your time and your budget. That's why, for example, so many inventive products and so many governmental projects exceed their time and budget enormously, and why Murphy's Law was written, that says that everything is going to take twice as long as you thought that it was going to and cost twice as much. That's pretty much true with every type of project that you get involved with, especially if you've never done anything like it before. It's very difficult to estimate the time and the money it's going to take to do something that you've never done before. Operations management, on the other hand, is much different than project management. With operations management, it's repetitive. You're doing things over and over again. They're permanent tasks that you do every single day, and typically done with permanent teams, not people that just come together for a few weeks or a few months and then go back into their regular areas. With operations management, you want to have permanent teams so that you can focus on excellence and you can focus on optimizing your processes. The third of the 3 areas of getting things done is opportunity management, and that means knowing when to stay the course or when to stop the presses. It really takes a lot of focus and discipline, and it takes processes and procedures in order to avoid and overcome shiny object syndrome. Shiny object syndrome happens a lot to very creative and excitable people, in that when the next great idea comes through the door, when the next good-looking woman or man walks through the front door, they get distracted and they really want to focus a lot of time and energy on that instead of maintaining their focus on their operational commitments, on the commitments that they've already made to themselves, to their teams, to their partners. It just takes a lot in order to overcome shiny object syndrome. There are, by the way, methods and processes and procedures that you can use to put that in place. Number one is, at your business, have somebody who's responsible, and hopefully this is somebody that's grounded and focused on getting the job done, like your COO, focused on seeing whether or not a new opportunity that comes through the door is something that you really want to focus time and attention on, or whether you want to put it into the opportunity pile that you have. Sometimes we call that the parking lot. Sometimes we call that the list of opportunities that we have. So I like calling it the opportunity center as well. So when something comes on, you quickly do a little bit of a triage and determine whether or not you want to invest additional time and effort and money on it right now, or whether it goes over to the opportunity center to be looked at the next staff meeting or at the next quarterly opportunity to revise all of your plans. So some companies look at those opportunities weekly, some of them look monthly, and some of them look at them quarterly. Depends on the stability of your business. With young businesses, by the way, you have a tendency to have a lot more opportunities that are distracting and a lot more shiny objects come through the door, so you may want to look at those either weekly or monthly. But you don't want to stop the presses, every 30 minutes or so to consider a new opportunity, because that really takes away from your focus and your attention on getting a job done. The last of the 4 competencies in the area of operations administration is on change management. And frankly, that requires very high emotional intelligence in order for you to manage the relationship, in order for you to have the social awareness and the empathy and the skills necessary for you to manage the attitudes and the perspectives and the relationships of the people that work with you as you implement change in your organization. It really needs to be done carefully and systematically. It requires great plans, committed leadership, great terms, and appropriate rewards. And I really think that gamification is the key to doing change management effectively. There's several different books out there. How to Build Habit-Forming Products really talks a lot about change management. Switch is another great book that we did an office hours presentation on that talks about change management. And the other one is Leading Change by John Cotter, released in the late 1990s, which is another great book on change management. So if you find it difficult at your organization to implement change, if you find a lot of hesitation and resistance with the other people that you're working with about changing your direction, even if it's in the best interest of your company, then I certainly recommend that you listen to those office hours presentations and read those great books. So how do we implement success in operations and administration? First of all, it takes a shift in mindset. As most great things do, it all starts with getting your belief systems in place, having your attitudes right, and shifting your mindset to being very positive about being excellent in that area of business. And in the case of operations administration, it's a focus on details matter, because details do matter when it comes to getting the job done and getting it done extremely well day after day after day after day. Another great idea is to say that everything can be improved. You may find people from time to time saying, well, it is what it is, or it's all perfect, or everything is as it should be, or it's the best that we can do. And I really do appreciate that kind of attitude when there is nothing that you can do. But in the area of operations administration, there is a lot that we can do every single day to optimize our products, to optimize our processes, to be better at project management, to handle opportunities better, to handle change better, to focus on quality, to get great teams in place, to put great plans in place, etc. There's a lot that you can do every day to improve your efficiency and your competency in the area of operations and administration. And the first step is making sure that you flip that switch in your own mind and you're ready to focus on the details and ready to focus on getting better. Once you have adopted a more positive mindset toward getting better at operations administration, then we put great methods in place. We put contract discipline, for example, that requires all contracts over $1,000 to be reviewed by another executive and all contracts over $5,000 to be reviewed by your attorney. That's a great method that you might want to put into place. You want to make sure that you have documented processes for all of your repetitive, high-dollar tasks that you do at your business, and focus on constantly improving those business processes that you have in place. And you want to establish momentum, and the way that we get into momentum is to really focus on that next agreement, to focus on that next hire and that next internal system, to really begin to do something to improve your proficiency, your excellence, your competency in the area of operations and administration. These are the 6 great principles of great operations and administration: to have great agreements, to get a great administrative and operational support team, to manage your staff extremely well, to use technology efficiently, have reliable and efficient delivery systems, and to be great at those 4 operational competencies of project management, operations management, opportunity management, and change management. So here is your excellence in operations mantra. I invite you to read along with me as I say it out loud. I will have great written agreements, and I will get them reviewed by attorneys. I will stop using high-dollar resources to perform low-cost tasks by cultivating a great operations and administrative support team. I will manage my staff very well and employ them to my utmost advantage. I will interview them well, have great agreements with them, manage them well, and compensate them well. I will keep up with technology and use it effectively today and tomorrow. And I will be relentless about having reliable and efficient delivery systems, and I will focus on getting the job done. Here's the bottom line for you. Number 1 is you really do have to be great at operations and administration, or the wheels will come off the bus. At some point in time, you'll find that you're unable to deliver a quality product or service. You're unable to get the job done in some way because you didn't have the focus that you really could have had in operations and administration. I really believe that a profitable team is a balanced team, and that means having leaders and followers. It means having people who are executives and have that mindset, and people who are focused on implementing and getting the job done. And that means clerks and gophers and administrative support team that you pay much less than you pay your executives. I really believe that greatness in the back office is essential in order to be great in the executive office, and essential in order to be great in the eyes of the customer. That's been our agenda for today. We talked a little bit about how to transform yourself and your company and the different levels of performance with mindset, methods, and momentum. We talked about what is operations and administration, the back office, the manufacturing operations, and the 4 competencies. We talked about we talked about the value of being excellent in operations and the impact about being poor in operations and administration, the 6 operational success principles, and the bottom line. Here's your homework. Talk to your coaches, talk to your colleagues about how they're managing their back office operations. Get recommendations from them as to people that you might want to work with and the ways that they have found to successfully get the job done. Begin cultivating and acquiring your great operational support team, and focus on being excellent in operations and administration as soon as possible. And the way that we do that is start today. Start right now today. Improve something today. Take a look at what you're doing to get your job done, and think about what you can do right now today to improve your excellence in project management, operations management, opportunity management, and change management. To have an agreement reviewed by an attorney. Focus on the 6-step hiring process. Do something today to improve your competency and improve your results in the area of operations and administration. We're going to go into open Q&A in just a minute, where you'll have the opportunity to make comments and ask questions on the subject matter of the day, and then anything else that you want to talk about. I'm always excited to learn what your biggest takeaways are and what insights you gain from the presentation. So share with us, if you would, what you intend to focus on. Here at the Hoyt Management Group, our support services include training and education services, where we teach you how to do the job yourself. We have collaborative services, which is the do-it-with-you services, where we actually work with you to help you create your strategic plans, to manage your projects, to develop your product funnels, to develop your financial projections, write your business plans, and do a wide variety of things, which are best done with the assistance of somebody with years and years of experience. And in some cases, we do it for you. With some of the services that we have, CFO services and COO services, we'll actually work with you to take an operational role at your company, focus on operations and administration and get the job done. Our next office hours will be next Monday, which is February the 1st. We're going to talk about how to be great at financial management, one of my very, very favorite key performance areas. Let me know what topics that you would like for us to address at paulsurvey.com after we get through with this 7-part Foundations of Business series. And in between now and the time that we talk again, do your homework. With that, we're going to open up the lines and invite you to make comments and ask questions on the topic of the day and then any other issues. Stephanie, do we have any questions or comments from today?
Yep, we do.
All right.
All right. What about projects that I do over and over again? Is that project management or is that operations management?
That's a great question. And let me give some examples where it can be one of either. Let's say, for example, you are a home developer and you're developing houses. Every single one of those houses is a different project. You might have a slightly different subcontracting team, a slightly different finish team to it, different people that you're using in the development of that house. If the houses are very dissimilar, one day you're building a 3-bedroom house, the next day you're building an 8-bedroom mansion, the next day you're building a commercial office building, you can tell that those projects are very dissimilar, very different from each other, and so it's classic project management, just one at a time. If you're building a subdivision, though, and you're building 200 3-bedroom houses that all look remarkably similar to each other, they have, maybe 5 or 6 different models, but they're all looking very similar because you want the subdivision to have its own characteristics and its own culture. That starts to take on the characteristics of operations management because you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, and it gets to be repetitive. So the bottom line is we can do things in our business where each one is a project, but, they're also each one is a process. Another example from my own business is my Gold Clarity package that I start out with many customers and clients with. It's a series of 5 90-minute sessions where we do planning, and each one of those is a project because I'm always working with a different company and there's always a different personality that I'm working with, but it is operational in its orientation to me as well because I've done them so many times. So you will find at your company that when you're first starting, everything starts to resemble a project because you've never done it before. But then as you do the same thing over and over and over again, you'll find that those projects take on some of the characteristics of operations management, and it's important for you to focus on both of those and be competent in both of those areas in order for you to deliver and get the job done. Hopefully that was helpful to you. Other comments or questions, Stephanie?
Yeah, we do. We have a couple of comments here. My biggest takeaway: details matter. Do I have contract discipline? Keep up with my competitors' technology? Interview and hire well and then compensate well. Have bulletproof contracts. Amen. Have an excellent admin and operations support team. Absolutely. Want to comment on that, Paul?
I do, especially in the area of technology, because every once in a while, 1 out of 20 or so of the people that I have worked with is really challenged from a technology point of view. For whatever reason, they're running on systems that are ancient. They don't, in worst cases, I've seen people not even be able to open up Word documents or open up spreadsheets, in Microsoft Office, and compatible products, have like a 95, 98% market share. If you can't, answer an email, if you can't put an attachment on an email, if you can't open up a Word document and manage that and maintain it, you're really at a serious disadvantage when it comes to doing business today. If you don't know how to send a text on a smartphone, every once in a while I find somebody that doesn't text because they just don't like to text. I find, and it's been a number of years, but 10 years or so ago, I remember talking to people who didn't even have an email address. Apparently they didn't even have a computer at their home. So, it's really essential that you not only, have that technology, that you have a smartphone, at least to the point to where you're able to send and receive texts, and really important for you to be able to send and receive photographs as well these days, and to create and publish videos is starting to be, a critical competency as well. You really got to keep up in technology if you want to appear to have a high quality product or service. If you really don't care about that, and your whole your shtick is being low cost and being low technology, then that might actually play well for you. But for most of us, and most all of the people that I work with, it's essential to really keep up on technology. And that means these days, unfortunately, having a technology refresh, updating the website, updating your smartphone, updating your operating systems, updating your version of Microsoft Office, every 2 to 4 years at a minimum, if not more often than that. So there's another little additional comment on that particular aspect of being great at operations and administration. Next, Stephanie.
Okie dokie. How do I determine when aspects of operations, or which aspects of operations to focus on first?
I think it's the things that carry the most value to you. And there's typically 2 different areas of that. Number one is when we take on an aspect of operations that's really high dollar. For example, we land a $100,000 client, or we land a $25,000 client. It becomes very clear and obvious that we need to focus an appropriate amount of time and attention on taking care of that very large client, because you've got so much at risk. With small companies, they could be risking their entire business on one very large client. So we really have to focus on delivering well and managing that environment extremely well. The other extreme is something that you're doing over and over and over and over again. So it's something, if you can make a 5% improvement on a task that you're doing 20 times a day, that can mean a tremendous amount when it comes to your overall operational efficiency. So we pick those things that we do very frequently, and we pick those things that have high dollar amounts to them, and focus our time and attention on being excellent at them first. And then we start to turn our attention to those things that we don't do very often, or those things that are really not very expensive for us to do. So if you can make let's say that you have a $100 task. If you make, and you only do that once, and you make a 5% improvement in it, you only save yourself $5. But if you're doing that same $100 task 1,000 times, so it becomes a $100,000 aspect of your operations, a 5% improvement in efficiency saves you $5,000 instead of just $5. So we want to focus on those things that we do over and over again, and focus on those projects that are extremely large relative to everything else that we're doing, because we are putting ourselves at risk whenever we take on those extremely large projects. Hopefully that was helpful to you. Next question or comment, Stephanie.
All right, next one. How do I find someone to focus on operations and administration? How much should I pay them?
Well, I'll go back to our 6-step hiring process. The first step there is to make sure that you've defined the job correctly. Make sure that you understand what support function it is. Is that IT support, sales support, marketing support, just regular administrative support, filing support, people to be a gopher and go do things, to make calls for you. Sales support could be really interesting about calling people with whom you have an appointment scheduled for the next day, and making sure that they have on their calendar for that appointment to be scheduled. Doctors and dentists and attorneys and accountants have all found out over time that just that simple little discipline, having somebody that you're paying $10 an hour to or $12 an hour to call everybody with whom you have an appointment the next day, can really improve your overall revenues, because you'll minimize the number of times that people forgot about an appointment. So if people are forgetting about appointments 1 out of 10 times or so, then it's really important for you to focus on reminding them every single day. That's a classic example of figuring out what it is that could be beneficial to you and putting that into the job description. Then once you have the job description in place, then we begin to recruit people for that particular job. And we understand, by the way, how much that job should pay. Is this an entry-level position? Is this a minimum wage? Is this a $10 an hour position? Is it a $50 an hour position? Are we paying a marketing person who has great competency, $50 or $75 an hour? Are we paying a business consultant or a coach $250 or $300 an hour? Once we figure out what it is we need support with, then we understand what the value of that is to us and get some sort of a picture, a range about how much we should expect to pay for that. And then we go into the interview process and follow that 6-step hiring success formula that I talked about in Office Hours 97. So I think that's the way you do it. But it all starts with, first of all, defining your vision for success, defining on what competencies that you want to hire so that you can have somebody take over those low-dollar tasks or those tasks that you don't do very well at all with and outsource them to somebody else. Hopefully that was helpful. Next question or comment, Stephanie.
Okay. Let's see, next question. I need to hire an admin. What should I do?
Well, I think we kind of just covered that just a little bit. If you need to hire an admin, first of all, define the job, and then I would say recognize that you have a lot of different choices to do that. You can talk to your friends and colleagues, whether they have a VA with VA standing for Virtual Administrative Assistant, or a regular VA who is not working full-time with them and for them that might be able to work with you. That's, by the way, is the very best way of finding somebody to work on your team, is finding somebody that's working part-time for a trusted colleague, and so that you can hire them as well, because that's really the best kind of personal reference you can get. But if you can't find somebody like that, then Craigslist. I use a resource called Thumbtack, which is starting to be a very large way of finding resources for our business. There are people out there that will help you out with virtual administrative assistants. There's a couple of them that I know. PeopleSource is one that I've used in the past. 123 Employer is one that I have used, who will help you find virtual assistants overseas that can provide a great deal of functionality and competency for very low amounts of money. So you might look in all of those different places to find yourself an administrative assistant. My first choice, by the way, is, as I mentioned, seeking personal referrals, going out to your network and saying, hey, does anybody have a great VA that's just working part-time for them and might be interested in working part-time for me as well? That's a really good way of doing it. Hopefully that's helpful, and hopefully you're very successful. And if you find a really great VA, let me know, because who knows when I might be able to use their services, or one of my clients might need that as well. Next question or comment, Stephanie.
Okay. Yeah, we got let's see, next question. Can you explain business process improvement and business process engineering? What do they mean?
Well, business process engineering comes first, and that is determining what steps need to be done in order to get the job done. Let me talk about a real-life example that came up for me, about 30 years or so ago. So I was working at a manufacturing company that had a process for a typical business process. It was a pretty new company. So at that point in time, they had engineered a process by which they purchased materials and paid for those materials. The process looked something like this. A department manager would submit a purchase order request, and they had to fill out the purchase order request. Then it went to the accounting department. The accounting department took that purchase order request, made sure that it was a good request. They signed off on it. They assigned the account number for the purchase of the supplies and the materials, and they sent it through the process for approvals. And they had an approval process in place to where department managers could sign off on something that was $1,000 or less. If it was $5,000 or more, it required supervisors. If it was $20,000 or more, it required an executive of the company to sign off on that purchase order before that purchase order was let, which means it was given out to the person that they identified that they were going to accrue the purchases from. And by the way, part of their process was that in between the time it was approved and the purchase order was let, if it was a manufacturing material, it went to the purchasing department, and it was the purchasing department's responsibility for making sure that the best product was hired from the best possible supplier. So they negotiated the suppliers, they identified the suppliers, they were the ones that actually let the purchase order for those materials. Those forms were always filled out in triplicate, or maybe quadruplicate, but in triplicate, so that the accounting department kept a copy of it. One copy of it went to the person who we were buying the materials from, and one copy of that went down to the receiving department, so that when the materials were received, that they could create a receiver. That copy of the purchase order became a receiving document, which was typically, stapled to a bill of lading and sent back up to the accounting department. And the accounting department then held that receiver and the bill of lading until they got the invoice from the client, and they matched that up with the purchase order to make sure that the bill of lading matched up with the purchase order and that the invoice was consistent with both of those. That's called a classic three-way match. That was the way the process was engineered, and by the way, that was the way the process happened at most large companies before computer systems came along. When we came into automating the purchasing system, we no longer used those pieces of paper. Purchase order requisitions were filled out online. The requisitions went to the accounting department digitally. The approvals happened digitally. No signature sign off to that. And then the receiving department was immediately aware of the purchase orders that had been let, so that when the bill of lading came up, there was not a physical receiver document that they stapled the bill of lading to. They just marked online that they had the bill of lading, and in some cases they scanned it and attached the image to the purchasing system, so that it went back up to the accounting department for payment or for matching up with the invoice when it came in. So all this stuff was being done digitally. What we found was that we were still using that triplicate copy, that the department manager, they still wanted to sign off on that, so they had them actually fill out the form, handwriting long or typing it out longhand, and signing it so that it came back up to the accounting department. But what they were doing is when the accounting department got this form in triplicate, they were immediately throwing away copy 2 and copy 3. Yet for years, they had still ordered this form in triplicate because that's what they had always done. So the first part was when we first implemented this purchasing methodology, that was business process engineering. When we improved the process, that was business process improvement. And then when we improved the process again by recognizing that we no longer had to order those forms in triplicate, that just a single form would do, because we were only ever keeping one physical copy of the paper in place in our accounting department. That was another example of business process improvements, or sometimes called business process re-engineering as well. And in the early days of computer systems, that's what we did all the time. We took a look at the way things were being done, and we re-engineered those processes so that we would eliminate manual steps and implement automated steps, and really save the company time and money by doing a better job with less time and effort through the implementation of computer systems. So I had, gosh, I'm guessing the first 10 or 12 years of my career, at least 60 or 80% of the job was doing business process re-engineering and redesigning business processes to use computer systems. So I'm really, really familiar to it. I hope that example was meaningful to you. At your company, again, as we talked about earlier, you think about the things that you're doing over and over and over again and optimize those processes. Shaving just a few percentage points of time and money off of those processes can really mean big bucks in the long run if you're doing them 100 times or 1,000 times a year. And I've got about 12:58, so Stephanie, we've got time for one more question or one more comment if you have them.
Okay. what kind of advice do you have for online information business owners? Is the process different?
It really is, and it's really different in the area of sales and marketing. You know, automated sales systems or automated marketing systems can take the place of, and in many cases have largely or completely taken the place of direct sales. So some of the first examples of automated sales system was the Sears and Roebuck catalog, that came out, in the late 60s, and where you could call into an 800 number, where you could give your credit card over the phone to somebody when credit card processing really started coming about big time. But Sears was the first company to implement a revolving charge account and have a revolving credit card. So then that's where we started to see some of our sales processes starting to be automated. At first, it wasn't completely automated because you would always call into an 800 number and place your order, over the phone with somebody. But then later on in the 1990s, when we started seeing the internet and started seeing automated systems come into place, maybe it was the late 80s or 70s and 80s as well, we started seeing systems that would accept your credit card online, and we started having automated sales systems. Today, there are some people out there that don't even understand the concept of direct sales. They don't understand the role of a salesperson and the need to have a sales conversation with people at all, because everything that they sell is sold through an automated sales system. People go online, they get a description of the product or service, they order it online, and there's this whole, not touched by human hands concept for automating that entire process. My experience is, by the way, that the higher dollar item that you're selling, the higher the ticket value, the more important it is for you to have that direct sales component. When you see somebody that's clicking on a $5,000 service that you're providing or a $10,000 service or beginning to ask questions about that, it's really important to have a direct sales component, having a conversation with that prospect, because one of the most important things about sales is establishing trust and rapport. You can establish some trust and rapport through the social proof and the videos that you have on your website, but having a real-time conversation with somebody, even a face-to-face conversation or face-to-face via Skype or some other video sharing capability online, it can be extremely important. So today I see automated sales systems as being replacing a lot of what was direct sales systems in the past, but I don't see them taking complete responsibility for that or taking it completely away. It's only on the low dollar products. And what is low dollar depends on your market. For some people, that's going to be $100 and below. For some people, it's going to be $1,000 and below. Is what you consider low value, and saying that we only sell those things online with no human interaction. But above that, we focus on having a face-to-face or real-time conversation with people to increase the trust and rapport. And by the way, there are systems out there that augment both of them. Zappos comes to mind as being a company that you can go in and order things from Zappos online without talking to somebody. But most people like to pick up the phone and call them because the Zappos people are so wonderful to talk to. They relish the opportunity to serve you and to have that purchasing experience be a joyful experience to you. They really do focus on the experience of purchasing from Zappos, and you really can't get the taste for that experience if you're just ordering things online. So some companies choose to focus on both of those. That's certainly what we try to do here at our company, and what I encourage you to do at your company. Focus on excellence in your automated sales systems, but also focus on excellence in your human-assisted sales systems, in your direct sales systems, where you focus on having an engaging, enjoyable, enthusiastic, lively conversation with your clients so that you can build up the trust and rapport that you need to build up to increase your close rate and to make sure that you're doing exactly the right things for your clients and they're getting exactly what they want. And I have 103. I just saw another question come in as well, so I might, Stephanie, do we have one more question before we call it a day?
Yeah. Do you have any resources for business owners that can give them at a glance information about the admin and daily operations. I think he's looking for checklists, maybe?
Well, checklists could be, that can give you, so online checklists are kind of the basic. If you're looking for kind of an at-a-glance thing, an operationals checklist that's online and that it's collaborative can be really important for that. In fact, I was just working with a client in the last couple of weeks that implemented that at their company, and as a basic of our conversation and my suggestion to them. So every morning, first thing is each one of the people at their company get online and put online what they're going to focus on a daily basis. And they look at it 2 or 3 times a day, and then when they complete it, they update it. So they don't have to have near the communication dialogue that they used to have, and near the worry or concern about whether or not somebody saw something. So, if you have the need for that constant communication to make sure that the job gets done, here's a little recommendation for you. Use an online service of some kind. I use both Smartsheet and Google Docs, depending upon the nature of what it is I'm tracking, and create an operational task list up there that says, I'm putting something, for example, on Stephanie's plate. And when Stephanie sees that, she acknowledges by typing into a column there that she's got it. And when she's done that, she says that it's done, and here's a link to it for my approval or my review, or just simply that it's being done, and vice versa. If there's something that Stephanie needs for me to do, she can put it on my list, and I will acknowledge that I received that request, and maybe have a comment about when I can get it done, or have a question about what she means by that. Anyway, there's this online capability that we have now with collaborative documents that we never had before, 3 or 4 years ago, that can really assist in that. If you are doing something that's repetitive and you really need to do operational statistics, let me turn the attention to like a manufacturing plant. So a manufacturing plant, at the highest level, we implement statistical process control, which means that we have automatic counters on all of our machines. And when a widget is produced, or when a piece goes through a particular work center, it's automatically counted. And by the way, the weight is measured, the quality is measured in some way to make sure that the process itself is staying within tolerance and the parts are being manufactured with the quality that we need for them to do. So in that case, those operational results are automated extremely well, because it's very, very important for us to know exactly how many pieces are produced and the quality of the pieces that are produced. So you can do it via online communication or offline communication or statistical process control. And I might invite you to have a conversation with us and see if we can help you design the systems at your company that will really assist you in making sure that your operations are being done with the quality and the efficiency that you want them done. And for those of you who have typed questions into our chat log that I kind of see, if we haven't had an opportunity to address your question, please don't hesitate to give us a call, to reach out to me personally, or to reach out to Stephanie at schedulesgrowth.com or schedulestephanie.com, and we'll do everything that we can to help you understand your opportunities for having a more successful company through excellence in operations administration. I encourage you to join us next week on February the 1st, when we're going to be talking about great excellence in financial management, one of my very favorite subjects. And I want to thank you again for tuning in and attending our office hours presentation today, or just listening to the recording. And until we have the opportunity to talk again, this is Paul Hoyt wishing you a most marvelous and prosperous day. Bye-bye.